Welcome to my channel.
I died for nothing, then woke up younger, realizing my family's massacre was just the beginning. It was my older brother who called out to me.
Yes, I replied, turning to face him.
He told me he wanted me to take over as the leader of the merchant group instead of him, and I confess, I was taken aback.
I told him it was his rightful place as the eldest, and that it didn't make sense for me, the youngest, to take that position. I reminded him that he was far more talented in this field than I was. He was the one who had brought us from a small group to one of the 3 greatest merchant groups in the land.
My older brother tried to object, but I cut him off.
I burst out, declaring that I preferred not having responsibilities and just lounging about. Becoming the leader would mean endless dinners with business partners, playing along with their nonsense, and taking all the blame if things went wrong for the group. I simply didn't want it.
My older brother just stared at me, a deep frown on his face. The two of us sat there, the tea ceremony forgotten, a heavy silence between us. Finally, my brother let out a sigh, a sound heavy with resignation.
"Yeah, all right," my older brother said, his voice quiet.
His lips curved into a faint, sad smile, a look of weary acceptance.
He looked at me, that same expression on his face, and said, "Let's do as you wish then, Sioho."
That memory of his resigned face was immediately replaced by a flash of horror as I saw him, later slumped and lifeless, surrounded by fire. Everything my family and I had built, every stone and beam of the Yunhee merchant group, was being consumed by flames, erased from existence. Yo Youngam, my personal guard, the man who had protected me my entire life, lay bleeding and still. My older brother, the one I had deferred to, was also gone, a grim sight among the ruins. Mr. Zhang, Mr. Lim, the generals, the Silver Wind Leader, and even the Sunset Leader, all of them were dead. Every person I knew, every familiar face, now lay lifeless before my eyes, and I, Yoon Sioho, the youngest son of the Yunhee merchant group, was left to witness it. My breath hitched, and a trail of blood escaped my lips as I coughed, the metallic taste a stark reminder of my own failing body. This devastation, this massacre, was the work of one man, Namgoong Kang, the leader of the White Heaven merchant group. He stood before me, his blade gleaming, and I could feel its cold edge resting against my throat.
Namgoong Kang just smiled, a cold, empty thing, and said it was a shame that he had to kill me. I spat back, reminding him that the White Heaven merchant group was under the Murim Alliance, and asked how he could justify this massacre while claiming to represent the Orthodox Murim. He turned his head slightly, as if dismissing me, and explained that the higher-ups had heard how we'd been interfering with their business. Then he scoffed, saying I should have just stayed in my lane, acting as if all this bloodshed was just for money. His words echoed in my mind, all this just for money. I told him he was ridiculous, that they were simply less skilled and had lost to us fair and square, and now this was their excuse. His eyes narrowed at my defiance, a flicker of genuine surprise on his face. My hand clenched, gathering what little internal energy I had left, and I asked if he'd gone deaf. With a roar of pure rage, I lunged forward, pushing the blade away from my throat, and struck him with a desperate, glowing fist.
The impact sent him stumbling back, and for a moment, I saw a flash of pain in his eyes.
I fell to my knees, blood gushing from my mouth, as Namgoong Kang coughed and admitted he shouldn't have underestimated me. He raised his sword, its tip glowing with a terrible light, telling me that my danger was precisely why the Yunhee merchant group had to be destroyed. And then he said, "Goodbye."
My eyes widened, staring at the glowing blade, and I felt the last of my strength leave me. The world was a blur of fire and crumbling wood around me, my family's legacy reduced to ash. Was everything I knew, everything my family built, truly meaningless in the face of their power? My head lolled, a bitter taste of blood and defeat in my mouth, as darkness began to creep in around the edges of my vision. A single, desperate thought echoed. If only I had dedicated myself to martial arts or pushed the Yunhee merchant group to grow even larger. Then a voice, faint and distant at first, calling out to me. My eyes snapped open, and I jolted upright, Chief Yu Soak's face, confused and unfamiliar, staring back at me from a desk.
I understand your health isn't the best, young master, but you can't be falling asleep during your studies.
I rubbed my eyes, trying to clear the haze, my mind racing. What was going on, and was I still alive?
I told you to review the harvest reports from last year and prepare an analysis.
I slowly looked down at my hands, then at the scrolls on the desk, a strange sense of unfamiliarity washing over me. Chief Yu Soak stood before me, his expression stern, but a warmth emanated from him that I hadn't felt in what felt like an eternity. If I was still alive, then this couldn't be right. It was impossible. The man before me, scolding me like a child, couldn't be who I thought he was.
Goodness. You're still dreaming, huh?
That stinging sensation, it was so familiar, so real. This man wasn't Namgoong Kang, the White Heaven leader who'd killed me. This was Chief Yu Soak, Chief of Internal Affairs for the Yunhee merchant group. My hand instinctively went to my head, a confused ache settling in. I recoiled, clutching my head as if to shake the cobwebs loose, staring at him with wide eyes.
In all my years of teaching the three young masters, no one has ever tried to punch me. You are very, very special. Go to your room and sit facing the wall.
As Chief Yu Soak's voice boomed, the world around me snapped into sharper focus, confirming the impossible truth. I was back in my old room, staring at the placard for the thinking chair, a punishment I knew all too well. Why was I, the grown Yoon Seoho, being scolded by Chief Yu Soak for sitting here like a disobedient child? But then he remembered something crucial about Jingilian. Then I remembered the reason for my last scolding, vivid as if it were yesterday, a disastrous analysis of the previous year's harvest supply. That was the very first task Chief Yu Soak had assigned me. His words still echoed in my mind, cutting me down. Is this what you call an analysis? A wild cow would write something better than this. A cold realization dawned, making my eyes widen.
Young. Yes, master. How old am I right now?
Yo Youngam, my personal guard, paused midair as he descended, clearly surprised by the question.
Yesterday was your 15th birthday.
Vif. 15, my mind wrestled with that number, trying to reconcile it with everything I knew to be true about myself. But I was 39, wasn't I? How could I possibly be 15 again?
You're acting strangely, Yoon Seoho. Perhaps we should call a physician to look after you. I know a very good one when it comes to matters of the mind.
I held my hands up, examining them, a strange prickle of unease running through me. Smooth, unblemished skin, not a single scar or blister from years of harsh work. Was I truly back to my younger self? I slapped my cheeks, the sharp sting a sudden jolt, a desperate attempt to confirm if this was real.
Yoon Seoho, it hurts. What in the world are you doing?
But I was dead. I distinctly remembered dying. A chill ran down my spine, as the vividness of that final moment washed over me. All the memories from when I died were so painfully clear. My family, lying dead in front of me, bathed in the cruel light of a burning world. It was Namgoong Kang who struck the final blow, his sword a dark silhouette against the inferno that had once been my home. I remember the cold shock as the blade bit deep into my neck. I instinctively clutched at my throat, a phantom pain tightening my grip. And then the sudden, undeniable realization. It all actually happened. It was real. I had truly come back to the past, and Yo Young-am looked at me with confusion as I tried to process it. But the massacre, it was not a dream or a nightmare. It was a memory, a scar on my soul, still vivid in this new, old life. My hand instinctively went to my throat again, checking for the old wound that wasn't there.
I won't let it happen again.
I could still recall every detail of my past life, the burning buildings, the faces of those who died. I knew how Namgoong Kang and the Murim Alliance operated, how they would strike, and I swore to myself I would use that knowledge to make us stronger. Wait, now that I think about it. I remembered asking Yo Young-am about my age. My 15th birthday, I knew what I needed to do. I counted on my fingers, 1, 2, the weeks until that horrible day, realizing it was much closer than I'd thought. A cold sweat pricked my neck, a clear sign that this was bad, very bad indeed. Only a week remained until the Yoonhee merchant group was annihilated, so I turned to my guard. Young-am.
We need to do something, and no one else can know about it.
Yo Young-am listened intently, his expression serious, a hint of concern etched on his face. Meanwhile, far away, someone was yelling, "I'm not!" A voice that sounded like it was refusing something important. Under the cloak of night, a man was carefully lighting a small parchment, then rolling it up. He sealed the message tightly, a subtle tap echoing in the darkness of the room. "Are you sure about this?" A voice asked from the shadows, breaking the silence. Yoon Seoho has begun learning the business, and I hear his guard, Yo Young-am, is a skilled martial master. I'm asking if you can really do this stealthily, without anyone noticing. The hooded man, bathed in moonlight, simply raised a finger, a silent promise of his capability. The hooded man's comrades scoffed, dismissing me as a mere sickly child, incapable of martial arts, barely able to walk without a cane. Then the hooded man assured him, his voice flat, that he had a plan for Yo Young-am, and that his associate shouldn't worry. He turned his glowing eyes to his companion, the blue light stark against the dark of his hood, and casually added that if anything went wrong, he would simply eliminate all witnesses. His companion chuckled, reminding the hooded man of his past loyalty to the Yoonhee merchant group. The hooded man's gaze was chilling, his eyes glowing with an unnatural light as he contemplated my name, Yoon Seoho. He spoke, his voice cold, of my supposedly early demise, as if it were a decreed fate. A cruel, wide smile stretched across his face, half hidden in shadow, as he suggested that I would be grateful if he merely hastened the inevitable. He was convinced I was already resigned to death, just waiting for it to arrive. The scene shimmered, like light fracturing on a pane of ice, and then faded from my memory.
Yo Young-am's voice cut through the cold air, calling out to me.
I was riding on the shoulders of one of our men, bundled in warm furs, using a spyglass to scan the snowy peaks as Yo Young-am watched me with a concerned expression. I adjusted the spyglass, focusing on something in the distance, a flicker of purpose in my gaze. My gaze drifted up towards the sky, a knowing smirk playing on my lips. Yo Young-am had no idea what I was truly thinking. I remembered a particular item, something rare and potent, glimmering even in the cold mountain air. It was the finest miracle medicine in all of Zhongyuan, and I knew exactly where to find it. This time, I wouldn't be caught unprepared. A single, winding strand of hair, adorned with 3 simple gold bars, drifted through the air, a symbol of what was to come. The words of the Yoonhee Merchant Group, my family, gleamed in gold and silver, a stark reminder of the legacy I was fighting to protect. The crimson stain spread across the floor, stark against the dark wood.
Please escape from this place.
I looked at him, my voice raw, asking where I could possibly go without him.
This is my duty. I've been living for this very purpose. I'm okay, so please run. Hurry. Even if I die here, as long as it isn't in vain, that is enough for me. You never listened to me ever since you were young. Will you render my death worthless? You damn brat.
Suddenly, a shout echoed, and more of them burst through the doorway, swords drawn.
Seoho, you must survive. I know you'll soar far beyond. Understood.
If I were to name 2 people from my multiple lives whom I could trust most, my older brother would undeniably be one of them. And the other, the person who stands beside me now, would be Yo Youngam. He certainly didn't look like a paragon of trust at the moment, with his nose running and teeth chattering from the cold. Beside him, another of our group, masked and bundled in furs, also complained about the biting cold. I could hear Yo Youngam asking what exactly we were searching for in this freezing weather. I pointed to a lone, stark tree on a distant ridge, glowing faintly in the snowy landscape. There, amidst the branches, was the pure icy snow plum, a miracle medicine of yin energy as potent as a 10,000-year snow ginseng. Yo Youngam squinted at it, asking what it was, while another of our men simply looked on, bewildered. This was the medicine that would cure me, I thought, the one that would finally resolve the imbalance that had plagued my body since birth. Yo Youngam's eyes, usually so sharp and observant, were fixed on the glowing fruit. My condition, the mysterious dragon star physique, was a rare affliction where one was born with overwhelmingly strong yin energy. For men, this meant the yin energy would clash with their yang, slowly but surely killing them. My entire life, I had been fighting against this imbalance, this constant internal war of yin and yang. I remembered Yoon Seoho's older brother, masked against the biting cold, his eyes determined. He was always looking out for the others, even as the cold made a Yoonhee group member, masked, sneeze violently. His gaze, even masked, conveyed a deep sense of responsibility, a silent promise to protect.
I don't know who exactly you are talking about, but I'll protect everyone.
He moved with a sudden burst of speed, leaving his companions startled, leaping into the snowy expanse. I might not become stronger than Yoon Seoho's older brother, but I would become as strong as I possibly could. This time, in this life, I would ensure no one would have to die for my sake, especially not Yoon Seoho's older brother, who once again in my memory was reaching for the pure icy snow lotus high on a branch. The title card appeared, marking the start of a new chapter in my journey. A few days passed, under a clear, winter sky, within the familiar grounds of the Yoonhee Merchant Group pavilions. I walked through the courtyard, feeling lighter, healthier, and greeted 2 of the group members with a genuine smile. My energetic morning greeting caused an Yoonhee group member, carrying boxes, to flinch, while Yo Youngam just gave me a dry, almost dismissive, "Yeah, sure."
And then Yo Youngam, my young guard, called out a little annoyed. "Guard Yo, what?"
I just kept walking, a jaunty tune humming in my head, feeling like a new man. I saw 2 of the Yoonhee members talking, one gesturing wildly as I passed by. Then Ah Seung, a rank 9 from the finance pavilion, looked at me with wide, impressed eyes.
He actually thought, now he's like one of the most beautiful men out there. Yeah.
Yo Youngam, however, just narrowed his eyes, clearly unimpressed by my sudden glow-up.
He then tapped the head of the Yoonhee group member, carrying boxes, who was still flinching from my cheerful greeting, and ordered him to focus on his work. All this fuss, I realized, was because of the pure icy snow lotus. That miracle medicine had completely rebuilt my body. The change had been profound, a deep internal transformation that had swept through me. My eyes, once clouded by illness, now held a clear, sharp blue. I just smiled, putting a finger to my lips, silently telling everyone to keep it quiet about the new me. A quiet understanding settled between us, unspoken but clear. Yo Youngam watched me walk away, sword in hand, a slight sigh escaping him.
Well, as long as he's healthy now. If he gets sick again, I'm killing him.
My destination was the Finance Pavilion, a place I knew all too well from my previous life. Inside, Ah Seung, a rank 9 member of the Finance Pavilion, looked up from a stack of papers, his face aghast.
How did you manage all of this in 2 hours?
But the true cure was far more complicated than he imagined.
He held up a document, his expression a mix of disbelief and scrutiny. You really did all this properly.
I just offered him a small, knowing smile. It wasn't all that difficult, I replied, trying to sound casual, but the truth was, it felt far easier than it should have. I immediately regretted my words. I should have played the amateur a little longer, but my past life's experience, combined with my improved health, made everything accelerate.
Young master, Chief Yu Soak began, his tone serious. This might come off as rude. But even the smallest work in the finance pavilion should be done with utmost care. The flow of finances in a merchant group is akin to blood in a human's veins. If information were to leak out, what do you think would happen?
I met his gaze, my eyes narrowing slightly. Oh. I leaned forward, a slight smirk playing on my lips, ready to engage in this little dance with Chief Yu Soak. Chief Yu Soak furrowed his brow, pushing up his glasses as he considered my impudence.
There's no way someone like that could have done this work well.
I watched him, my expression unreadable as he stewed in his own thoughts. Then I smiled, a knowing look in my eyes, and offered him a challenge. What if I were to turn in all of this work to the Chief of Internal Affairs right now? I asked, gesturing to the stacks of documents.
You're making a really big deal out of it. Are you sure?
He blinked, adjusting his glasses again, clearly caught off guard by my confidence. I just nodded and smiled, a silent affirmation of my intent. I'll personally handle the ancestral worship ceremony for my eldest brother, I offered, a somber note entering my voice. Chief Yu Soak's eyes widened, a sudden realization dawning on his face as he looked at me with renewed intensity. I met his gaze, a spark of defiance in my own, assuring him there would be no chickening out from my end. Ah Seung, a rank 9 from the Finance Pavilion, looked absolutely mortified, as if I'd just proposed something truly scandalous. He turned away with a whimper, mumbling about being the senior and how this was simply too much for him to bear. The scene shifted, and soon I was back in the main pavilion, ready to take on the next challenge.
Chief Yu Soak, now holding a scroll, looked at me with a bewildered expression, asking if I was truly going to handle all of this by myself.
He stared, his eyes wide and shocked, as I simply smiled back, completely unbothered.
He stammered, convinced I was making some grave error in judgment.
The chief's face contorted in disbelief, his mouth agape as he processed my words.
He spluttered, questioning how the young master, who had just begun learning, could possibly take on such a monumental task.
I just offered him a small, knowing smile, enjoying the chaos I was creating. I leaned closer, my hand resting casually on his shoulder.
Anyway, I said, a mischievous glint in my eye, I'll be looking forward to your 02 dance.
With that, I turned and walked away, leaving a stunned Chief Yu Soak calling out after me, his voice a mix of exasperation and disbelief. As I walked away, a realization hit me. Chief Yu Soak wasn't shouting in anger, but in surprise. I paused, a smirk playing on my lips, turning to face him and the others.
He was giggling.
Chief Yu Soak's eyes narrowed, his expression hardening as he processed my earlier challenge. A memory flashed through my mind, dark and searing. The face of my older brother, battered and bleeding, surrounded by fire. It was a scene from my previous life, a ghost that still haunted me. My cheerful demeanor faded as I met Chief Yu Soak's gaze, the weight of my past settling heavy. He seemed to sense the shift, his own expression softening slightly, but still firm.
Die.
He clenched his fists, his voice low and serious as he continued. My gaze sharpened, conveying a silent promise that I would do everything in my power to ensure our family's future.
Don't go around later, passing out like last time. If you pass out like last time, I'm going to kill you.
I gave him a calm, confident smile, bringing my hands together in a respectful gesture. My smile faltered as I caught the intensity in his eyes. Yo Youngam wasn't entirely joking. I turned away, the sound of my cane tapping against the stone echoing as I walked towards the doors. My cane struck the ground decisively, a thought forming in my mind about my return to this place. I paused, a genuine smile returning to my face as I considered the path ahead. The wind ruffled my hair, carrying the scent of the trees that surrounded our pavilions. The name of the Yunhee Merchant Group, my family, my legacy, stood strong in my mind. A vision of fire flashed in my mind, a memory of my past life. According to those memories, a massive fire was due to break out at the finance pavilion in just a few days. In my previous life, a low-ranking official died in that blaze, and invaluable documents were reduced to ash, a catastrophic loss for the Yunhee Merchant Group. That wasn't just an accident, I remembered clearly. It was an act of arson, meticulously planned by someone intent on harming us. I looked at the stacks of financial ledgers before me, the very ones that would be lost. To prevent it this time, I needed the freedom to move as I pleased, without question or restriction. I gave a slight smile, a plan forming in my mind. To make that happen, I needed to change how everyone, especially my brothers, perceived me. This was my chance, a new beginning for the Yunhee Merchant Group. My journey began at the main estate, a place I once knew so well, now seen through new eyes.
Jinho, how is the work at the Sunset?
Then I saw my older brother, Yoon Jiangho, the eldest son, looking back at me with that familiar, mild expression. And Yoon Jinho, the second son, was there too, taking a sip from his cup, his eyes half-lidded. And then there was me, Yoon Seoho, the youngest, looking perhaps a bit too serious for a family gathering.
Yes, the work at the Sunset Pavilion is going smoothly.
Yoon Jiangho just smiled, a small, knowing twist to his lips, as if he already knew what I was about to say. And Yoon Jinho, he just kept smiling, but there was a sharpness to his gaze I'd learned to dread. I thought of the man he became in my old life, the one who turned cruel and ruthless. I never wanted to see that side of him again.
Nonsense.
Yoon Jinho's smile vanished, replaced by a scowl, his eyes narrowing at Yoon Jiangho.
Yoon Jiangho, do you think it's right to say that to your younger brother? He's completely twisted.
Yoon Jiangho's eyes hardened, a flicker of something cold in their depths.
You're going too far. What responsibility could he possibly handle within the Yoonhee merchant group? Yoon Jiang-ho scoffed, his gaze unwavering.
My eyes narrowed, a silent challenge passing between us. But this is my own issue to resolve, Yoon Jin-ho, I said, turning to my other brother. Yoon Jin-ho stared at me, his mouth slightly agape, clearly surprised by my defiance. Yoon Jiang-ho simply watched us, his expression unreadable, a slight frown on his face. He looked at me with a questioning glance, as if he couldn't quite place the person standing before him. I could almost hear his thoughts. Today, he feels strangely mature. Yoon Jin-ho's eyes widened slightly, a hint of concern in them, as if he knew what I was about to do. Yoon Jiang-ho, however, remained impassive, his gaze fixed on me. My own eyes met his, firm and resolute. I stepped forward, the sound of my single footfall echoing in the quiet room. "Apologies for being a bit late," I said, addressing them all. The meeting ran a little long.
Yoon Seo-ho, Yoon Jiang-ho began, his voice flat.
My face, I could feel it, flushed hot. The reason for that flush was a memory, a ghost from my previous life, refusing to stay buried. I saw it vividly, Yoon Jiang-ho kneeling by my bedside, his hand on my feverish forehead, while Yoon Jin-ho stood by, worried. I remembered the look of pure grief on Chief Yoo So-ak's face as he watched me, the sickly child fading away. Then, a moment of clarity broke through the haze of the past.
Yoon Jiang-ho watched me, a faint, almost imperceptible smile playing on his lips. "Is there something you wish to say, Yoon Seo-ho?"
I had to snap out of it. This emotional display, this lapse, was not me. None of that had happened in this life yet. I was healthy now, a different person. The burning finance pavilion, the massacre of my family, those were future events I was here to prevent. My only focus now was protecting the Yoonhee merchant group. I bent my head slightly, composing myself. My gaze sharpened, taking in the room with a renewed sense of purpose. But challenging Jiang-ho wasn't the biggest gamble he'd take. My older brother, Yoon Jiang-ho, looked at me with a questioning expression, a slight frown on his face. I walked further into the room, past the table laden with food, towards where Yoon Jiang-ho was sitting.
Because you were born frail, you didn't take on full responsibilities.
I met his gaze directly, a silent challenge in my eyes. Yoon Jin-ho, my second older brother, paused with his chopsticks halfway to his mouth, clearly surprised by the turn in conversation. Yoon Jiang-ho continued to look at me, his expression unreadable. I knew what he was thinking, what he always thought about me. He still saw the sickly child, the one who couldn't keep up. Yoon Jiang-ho sighed, a long, exasperated sound that filled the room.
With your current condition, that's absolutely impossible. Anything else is fine, but not night duty. Understood.
My eyes narrowed. No, that wouldn't do at all. I opened my mouth, a challenge forming on my lips.
Yoon Jiang-ho dropped his chopsticks to the table with a sharp clatter. Exactly how will you prove that?
Let us have a spar, I said, looking from Yoon Jiang-ho to Yoon Jin-ho. Yoon Jin-ho's face twisted in surprise, his eyes wide. Yoon Jiang-ho stared at me, a flicker of disbelief in his gaze. His expression hardened, suspicion creeping in. Yoon Jin-ho looked truly worried now, concern etched into his features. I just smiled, a calm, confident smile.
What are you saying? Yoon Jin-ho burst out, looking between us.
I explained that if I could hold my own against Yoon Jiang-ho, it would ease any worries about my capabilities. My words were firm, carrying the weight of my past life's lessons and my newfound strength.
Yoon Jiang-ho watched me, his expression unreadable and the silence in the room stretched.
I pressed the point, asking him directly if he would permit the spar.
Yoon Jin-ho, still reeling, looked at me with wide, worried eyes.
Yoon Jiang-ho simply told his younger brother to let it go.
He picked up his chopsticks and calmly began to flake a piece of fish from the dish in front of him, as if I hadn't just challenged him. His gaze was steady, dismissive, as if this entire conversation was beneath him.
He clearly didn't believe I had a chance against him, which, I suppose, was to be expected given my reputation as the sickly youngest son.
There was a subtle arrogance in his eyes, a confidence born from years of being the most capable brother.
I just smiled, a small knowing smile, and called him older brother.
Yoon Jin-ho, however, seemed to deflate, running a hand over his face in exasperation at the tension between us.
Yoon Jin-ho, still looking worried, suggested to Yoon Jiang-ho that if the spar became dangerous, I should surrender immediately, as there was no shame in it.
I just watched Yoon Jiang-ho, waiting for his response. My older brother, Yoon Jiang-ho, narrowed his eyes, a clear sign of his growing irritation. Soon enough, we were outside in the courtyard, the crisp air carrying a few falling leaves as we took our positions. Two men, holding drumsticks, looked on with expressions of uncertainty, ready to mark the beginning of our duel. Then I saw Yo Youngam in the distance, and I gave him a cheerful wave, saying his name aloud.
My young guard, seeing me, put a finger to his lips, a subtle gesture for quiet.
One of the men with the drumsticks seemed to be trying to reassure his companion, saying, "He'll be fine." Yoon Jiang-ho turned to his brother, his voice laced with a hint of challenge, asking if he was worried about me.
Yoon Jin-ho looked away, a bead of sweat forming on his temple, clearly uncomfortable.
Yoon Jiang-ho simply scoffed, a dismissive sound, and asked his brother what he was saying. He then told Yoon Jin-ho to simply watch and see for now, his gaze fixed on me as I stood ready.
Yoon Jiang-ho looked at me, his gaze sharp and calculating, as if trying to discern the exact nature of the change he sensed. A brief, almost comical image of a pig appeared in my mind, a memory of what I must have looked like as a sickly child, bloated and weak. But that was the old me. The youngest son of the Yoonhee merchant group was now ready to fight. That was the chapter. Subscribe to watch the youngest son rise.